What's going on, people? My name is Terminus, and today we're gonna check out episode 21 of Frieren. I really couldn't wait to check this one out because the last episode ended on such a cliffhanger, and I really needed to get back into it. Before we get started, I know some of you don't really want to get into the pre-discussion kind of thing, which is a shame because we do talk and process a lot about what happened last episode and stuff, but sometimes I don't have that much to say, and that's fair, and we don't have to do double content here. So if you don't like that, skip to the reaction. You'll see it in the most of the time I do have timestamps. For all of the rest of you, before we get into it, I want to remind you that I do have a Discord, I do have a Patreon, I do have a I do have a Patreon, and I do have a Discord. I also have a subscribe button, so if you would like to subscribe and like the video after you're done, that would be really nice. I'd appreciate that. But yeah, let's just get into it and talk a little bit about what happened last episode, shall we? And please, without the overlay that I do have, wait, let me just... I'm probably gonna cut this out, of course. I just have to figure out how to make it disappear again. Alright, here we go. No volume, please. What the fuck is happening? Oh yeah, okay, here we are. Little bit of a technical hiccup. Great start to an episode, but let's get into that. We had a very smug, very facetious 𝐏𝐢𝐏 in here, trying to make her way through this fight against 𝐏𝐢𝐏. They were kind of somewhat on a similar level, I would say. Like, she was being very aggressive, very proactive. That makes perfect sense for the way her character was built up. But what really surprised me last time was the way she was actually able to properly work in a team. I mean, obviously we do have her fighting one-on-one in like a singular combat here, but she was stalling time for Fan and trusted her to come here. I do think, at least, or I trusted one of the two to come here. She was noticing, whatchamacallhim, our illusion wizard guy actually using illusion from the get-go, being very non-trusting towards his teammate, but she didn't say anything. She was working very well together with them, so you can see that even though she has her very somewhat sadistic and maybe kind of troublemaking personality, she does seem to be capable and willing to work together with other people, and that, in my opinion, also probably comes from the fact that she possibly, due to her personality or due to some things she did in the past, did fail the second class mage exams in the past, and now she actually wants this, right? She wants to have the first class exam, and we get to know later on why everybody's so really eager to actually become a first class mage in the end. And we do know there's a limited amount of 𝐸𝐿𝐴, which is a very interesting thing that plays into that, because then we artificially restrict it from the get-go, right? We artificially restrict the amount of teams that can actually pass from the get-go, which is very interesting. But at the same time, we do know there's a second test, so there will be some more sorting out to do. So you don't just limit it here, right? You have like an amount of like X teams that actually X times 3 that make it through the exam, but then you have the second examination, which I would probably assume is going to be less of a team effort and more of a each man/woman on their own effort. Though I can't say for sure, of course, that is something that probably come up in episode 22, 23 of the series. Yeah, 𝐸𝐴 versus Fan, and Fan actually absolutely devastating her, which I enjoyed thoroughly. I also really do love all of the designs of the characters, from 𝐏𝐢𝐏 over 𝐏𝐢𝐏 all the way to even 𝐸𝐴. They all have their distinctive kind of touch, and I think this is a really a strength of Frieren as an anime in general, to actually have characters that are very memorable in design but also memorable in their characteristics. I don't know if that's due to the fact that they play into certain stereotypes, because I feel like a lot of them might play into them initially, right, on a visual level, on maybe even on a personality level, but then we see the twist and it's like, it's not quite like you would expect the stereotype to be. But yeah, we're kind of feeling ourselves out, right? Fighting against one another. I kind of get reminded of the Star Wars Episode 1, right? Phantom Menace, which a lot of people didn't like that because it had a lot of political stuff, but that's besides the point here. The main point here is that I get reminded a lot about the lasers in the final, well, spoilers to Episode 1 of Star Wars, by the way, to the lasers in the final fight between Darth Maul and Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi, where has constantly these energy barriers going up, and then the fight is stopped and they actually have to just wait for them to go down, and they're looking at each other and kind of feeling each other out and intimidating, and I mean, they're not talking that much, but this is in the same vein and feels the same way to me, right? They have quick moments of action where they clash, and they have like close moments, and suddenly there's this restriction spell again, and then they're looking at each other again, and one of them starts the conversation and initiates and kind of prods. And I do like all of this back and forth, right? Exchanging information, posturing to each other, feeling out what the other one is thinking, what they're intending to do. And yeah, 𝐏𝐢𝐏 kind of brings up something from his experience here, right? Opens up a little bit about that it's not easy for him and doesn't like killing people, but he's used to it due to the underhanded way nations work, and army to army conflict works, and he was employed in that before, apparently, because nations clash, and in times where there's no demons to fight, actually the mage corps are also being called upon, which is a very interesting element of like the political landscape of the series in general. I would be very interested to see how that plays into all of that, because we did have, up until now, we did have this big enemy of like the demons. They're inhuman, they're alien, they're very different from us, right? And we do have that as a common enemy, but now we're in times of relative peace, right? There's not a lot of demons, we're only fighting the remnants, and in those places where, or those times where we do not have to fight the remnants, obviously there's political struggles gonna rise up, right? Nations, rulers, they're greedy, or they have their own concerns, right? For example, nations rulers that feel like their internal policies are not taking root, and the people are unsatisfied with how they're leading the country within itself. Maybe they have economic issues, and to distract from that or make good on that or change the people's perspective of them, they feel they need to have a major conquest or find a new common enemy to actually fight, so the people are not focused on the rulership being the thing that is the problem. And sometimes the rulership isn't even the problem. Sometimes it's just things happening in the world that we can't necessarily always control, that even if we react to them at the best of our abilities, there's problematic situations and rough times that come upon us just by the nature of the cascade of the falling chips, right? The domino effect, the butterfly effect, if you want, of all the little ecosystems of humanity, all the little societies kind of just bouncing off of one another, and not any one society specifically or any one nation specifically is necessarily at fault here, and then it still happens that people are suffering and have struggles and issues and whatnot. So I do feel like it's not always that case, but oftentimes I feel like rulers do tend to have that feeling that they need to do something, and one of the like most convenient and easy things to do, even though it's everything but easy on like a moral level, but one of the easiest things to do is just start beef with another nation, try to get one over on them, and make it appear as if your cause is the righteous to do, because what they're doing over there in this nation is not really what you or your culture or people that are within your country approve of, and then you kind of just spin it in a way to kind of spark a war, and suddenly you are you have conquered something and you're like, okay, we've liberated this region or whatever, right? There's just a lot of shit like that going on in the world, and it's been going on since, right, the Stone Ages, since forever. Not the Stone Ages maybe, right, because there wasn't like society in that way, like the people weren't as close to each other, there wasn't as much population, but as long as we remember nations and great empires being a thing, that's been going on. Very interesting that he tells that oftentimes this can be gruesome on the normal soldier who just has to fulfill his or her duty, and then they are confronted with moral questions of, the enemy is being underhanded by sending kids and women to fight us, and what are we supposed to do, right? We could try to kind of just take them out non-lethally, but there's very nefarious ways to do that. I had like the discussion with somebody a couple of days ago where we talked about how in World War II they were actually using dogs as low-key suicide bombers, right? And this is like cruel beyond compare if you think about it from a modern perspective, but that's a thing, right? You strap a bomb to a dog and you find a way to lure them to the place you want them to go, and then you just detonate the charge, and that's how it is, right? Or you use war orphans to kind of just get the enemy to lower their defenses. I think that topic has been coming up very shortly in one episode of Attack on Titan, which is very interesting. But moving on from that tangent, appealing to humanity, and he's trying to retain his humanity, he's trying to... But he says, I always killed everyone I had to, right? As soon as he steals his resolve, as soon as he convinces himself through internal arguments to actually do it, he has followed through, and it doesn't matter what the consequences of it were, and maybe this has partially, in some circumstances, weighed heavy on his conscience. It's still something that he deemed necessary to do, and as such he did it. And we do have that building tension of the moment where we are about to release a blast on 𝐸𝐵, but he's been delaying it because he sees it not as entirely necessary, because I feel like he has seen that while 𝐸𝐵 does really love and enjoy fighting other people and maybe even killing them to a degree, she's also kind of looking for reasons to do it. She's not just doing it with any peasant that's coming by, she's doing it with people like bandits, as we've seen when we were introduced to her. People who are robbing other people who in her mind are unfair and taking advantage maybe of weak people as well. So she's looking at the very least up front for an excuse to fight people and kill people. And we have seen that she had moments in this fight with 𝐸𝐵 where she was actually up ahead and could have done something. And yes, she struck out, but I don't think she would necessarily have killed him. Maybe that's misjudgment on my part, but I think if she didn't have to, she wouldn't have necessarily killed him, because this is a competition. As soon as she won, she actually won, right? She wounded the person and they are unable to continue, then she would consider that a win for herself, and I don't know if she would have necessarily pulled the trigger in that case, if she just enjoyed the killing itself, or if what she enjoys is just punishing bad people, right? These like it highly depends on her backstory and on what she can still enjoy hurting people. She can still enjoy winning against people without having to be a mass murderer. But yeah, we have Fen coming in. She's like, not gonna happen. And she's holding him at staff point, at gunpoint basically. And she's saying she killed 𝐸𝐵, and that's when he has that little eye twitch moment going on, which is a very interesting thing. I'll see if I can actually find that. We got lucky. Yeah, we have this. Right, let me just speed that up for a second. This is what she is saying, but like I said, I think it was kind of also due to Fen being very well with like hiding her mana and whatnot. And he's asking what happened to 𝐸𝐵, and she's like, I killed her, and there's no emotion in her face, and I absolutely love it, because Fen is such a good person, like such good at bluffing people. She'd be fucking menace at poker, wouldn't she? Right? Playing card games and whatnot. We've seen that like a bunch of episodes earlier with Sign when they were in his hometown and he was playing cards and whatnot, and they took out Stark. She would have been able to win that back easy, because Fen is just fucking insane when it comes to pretending to be a very uncaring person, and I can really see that, right? And we see that twitch, like that is one frame. It's very minuscule, but you realize it, right? Because you're zoomed in on the face. It's big, and we just had that emotional beat of I killed the person that you know, and we have that little twitch, and that is the moment we realize he might have known her before the exam, because of course that would like bring you into, oh god, I'm speeding this up way too much. Yeah, and she's kind of smiling because it kind of emotionally affected him, so definitely taking joy in the unsettlement and possibly pain of others, at least of her adversaries, but she can work together with other people. We see that she is listening to Fen when she says, 𝐲𝐷 by the way, 𝐲𝐷 is not really what you should be doing that, right? But yeah, she's like, wouldn't be necessary to kill him. But she recognized that she was lying. By the way, something I hadn't said before is for Sharf. Oh yeah, wait. We hear the name of Land. Okay, his name is Land, and it doesn't really tell me much, right? We'll have to see if there's more to come on that. But Sharf, obviously, his name comes from the fact that he is creating sharp objects out of things, mostly out of flowers or flower petals, which is very poetic, right? It seems very poetic and artistic to me to create like something sharp and hurting out of something that is so emotionally positive in the minds of many people, right? Leaves and flower petals and whatnot. And we do have that amazing animation of just like how it's moving like a snake, right? And we have these lines, right? I love how it contracts, how it changes its shape. It's like very wide here, and suddenly it pierces out like a spear, or like a wave or whatnot, and it's getting sharper and sharper. You see those not just the speed lines and the blur in the background, but you also see this white glimmer that is giving it kind of like a silvery metallic sheen. And I do love the little details of the petals blowing past that through the wind energy, the shockwave that is being created by the movement of the sharp object mass, whatever we're doing here. And it's like I said, it's like a wave or an arm or a snake. It's slithering, and suddenly it forms into like almost a swordish kind of deal. And we see, obviously, we know this is like the mirror image of Mr. Land here. But it's kind of just like water, like a fluid. It's turning around those magical defensive barriers in kind of just, you even see it when it contacts with the shoulder, it's splashing out, right? Like it would be with water. So it's just getting the surface of it. Still, we do obviously have that moment of, yeah, you're done, you're knocked down, whatever. And obviously it was a feint, and he is very distrusting to everyone. Again, we talked about this last time, framing. It's very cool. It's very cool that we have him towering over his defeated opponent. That is a classic shot, right in the middle on the flower field that is out of focus, him in focus, and we have our character standing tall over the defeated opponent here, and the petals are slowly falling and getting less, not entirely getting less, but they're scattering out a little bit more. We have that little moment of absolute pizzazz, absolute. It is a cool moment, a very impressive moment. Then we have that little emotional moment. I love how Frieren was able to just change between cool and amazing and action. Then we go into somewhat comedic and familiar, right? Building relationships, building interesting connections. And then we go into something very intimate and endearing with this little friend group actually making it through the forest after being defeated, and him recalling his backstory of why he wanted to be a mage in the first place, why he became the person he became, and telling this story. And she, like I said, it could be her, it could also not be her. I think it's very telling that they're not showing the eyes. That is often, for me, a telltale sign that there's something that we are supposed to not realize that's connected to the eyes that we're gonna realize later. So we could play on that and say later, okay, it was actually 𝐸𝐏 that was that little girl when he used to be back in his hometown when he was a kid. But it can also not be. It can also just be a red herring, and all we have here is an emotional connection being strengthened through the fact that she finds it very endearing that this is or was his motivation of becoming the person he wanted to become. And as luck would have it, the moment he actually thought, or the moment they all thought they were defeated, through sheer circumstance and through the fact that possibly two of them don't have any mana left anymore, and a lot of fighting is going on around them, but they're not fighting themselves, they meet a 𝐸𝐏, and actually we are able to capture it. And here we have the stage that is before that, right? Frieren actually got the 𝐸𝐏, but she got it stolen right here, and now it comes to confrontation. I do like how we're switching between, hey, oh shit, the 𝐸𝐏 got stolen, what do we do now? And suddenly we're somewhere else, right? We're at the people who are taking the examination, overseeing it, and funny that the 𝐸𝐏 is actually sitting on her hand, which it kind of tells me that she's very, very good at suppressing her mana as well. But yeah, they're talking about the examination, how they have kind of opposing views when it comes to how fair it really is, and we do see that, right? We do follow that red line of I don't like how you're doing this examination, and him explaining his reasons, and then 𝐈𝐻's like, this is ridiculous, I don't think these reasons are valid. 𝐈𝐻, I'm saying, sorry. The similarities are here, but he's more shrewd. He's definitely like more of a schemer. This is 𝐸𝐏 actually disagreeing with that, and Frieren too, that it's not worth killing each other over such a stupid thing as the next degree, right? And Richter being very, very much the opposite opinion, and him actually wanting to follow through, but somewhat listening to 𝐈𝐻. I'm always saying 𝐈𝐻. Listening to 𝐸𝐏. 𝐸𝐏 thinks he can beat Frieren. And then we have a little bit of this expose in our first look at 𝐸𝐧, who has been teased since the first OP of Frieren, which is really cool. And she's being akin to a goddess almost, right? And then we have the two of them who are actually overseeing the examination as two of the most powerful mages, and they're kind of have like some kind of like fallen angel, devil, whatever visual thematic going on here. That might as well just be metaphor. It could be a metaphor in the sense of like, yeah, they're demons in their own right? But yeah, 𝐸𝐏 thinks he can beat Frieren, and he's cute. I don't think he can. And that's where we ended it for this one. I think the best thing we can do is to head back into the episode, see what spectacle is about to unfold. I'm pretty sure we're gonna have an amazing time. I already edited episode 20. It was less straining than I thought to edit it, but I think it's kind of been a bit choppy on episode 19. So do let me know if you do feel like the editing, right, the cut reaction is a little bit jarring on some circumstances. If you feel that, I'm trying to pay attention to it. Obviously, there's often this conflict between what do I want to get into the episode, right, in terms of important content that's also nice to refresh and read on, and nice moments and interesting moments to elaborate on. And on the other hand, we do have obviously a lot of the content that is where you just have to remove a couple of seconds in order to not in order to not just do the entire episode, and sometimes there's a lot of explanation going on, and I'm just trying to do the very basics of it and cut the rest out. It's not gonna work perfectly fine, but you know, it's a work in progress, and I have to get back into it most definitely. But do tell me what you like about the editing of the episode and whatnot, and we're gonna try and work on it as we make our way through all of that. But yeah, I'll see you in the reaction. 2 versions, remember, Pip, below, and edited right here on YouTube. Let's get started. Frieren, episode 21 starts in a 3, a 2, a 1. Rain. Ame. It's Ame, right? Yeah, it's Ame. Oh, Flam content. Okay, I'm listening. Oh, and they've met 𝐸𝐸𝐏. I didn't expect that low tone. Do they know each other? Oh, and we're fading out. Is that a memory that came to 𝐸𝐸𝐏 right now, or is it something that Frieren thought of? So 𝐸𝐸𝐏 has been around since before that. My theory about her being the Demon King is very unlikely. Either way, very cool. Oh, we have lyrics now. I love it. Themselves the time to actually properly translate the lyrics. It's cool. So we actually, once we get it in the episode, we get something cool. And here we have a little recap. Bargland. Bargland could come from Bergland, which is kind of like mountain land, hill lands. But I don't know if the spells are based on the German language. Oh, okay. I think Frieren agrees, partially. I didn't expect that voice, like I said. Alright. And she gives them away. She likes that. Does she though? And Flam believed that, okay. As one who seeks battle. And so she's saying there's a conflict of interest. It's her idea of how an mage is supposed to be. And we do have the two of them struggling against Richter. So what's his magic aside from raising mountains? Very defensive, right? Earth magic style. We come back to that. I think he might actually be underestimating them. I'm sorry for interrupting that, but this is going to be an amazing animation sequence, so it's fine anyway, right? We're gonna see it. I think he's underestimating them a bit, but at the same time, I also feel we come back to this topic of hiding your biggest guns, right? Hiding what you can do, and I do feel it's the tendency of many people, especially younger people, but not exclusively younger people. There's also a certain personality type that really likes to do that, to show off, right? To show what you're capable of in an effort to prove yourself and gain the recognition of other people. And that's not always necessarily a good thing, because oftentimes once you find yourselves up against those people or in a situation where you rather not have people knowing what you're capable of, or at least not knowing everything you're capable of, if they do actually know, you're in big trouble, which is kind of like that general idea of a battle where you have to keep some of your cards close to your chest. I do wonder if they actually kept some of their cards close to their chest, and we're going to see that right here, or if it's going to be a case of a learning experience for them to not just show everything off from the get-go. But we have Richter here, who hasn't shown everything he's capable of, I'm pretty sure, but also might be underestimating them based on thinking that they're young, inexperienced mages who immediately show what they're capable of. Although we are actually in like the first class mage exam, then we have to keep in mind that these two young mages are possibly, I don't know, third, fourth class mages who have been training a good deal of their lives and had like a magical education, and possibly are not as naive as they seem on the surface. But yeah, let's see what actually happens. Maybe they do have a long-term plan going into this. That could be cool. It wasn't necessary? Yeah, alright, there wasn't a necessity. Alright, so they want to circumvent that. Right. Manipulating objects rather than using pure magical energy. Okay. Alright. I mean, that is the flaw in your plan now, isn't it? That you think Denken is gonna win. Holy shit, Frieren is gonna... Alright. Alright, okay, Denken is aware, he isn't arrogant. You think you can, so you might have an ace up your sleeve. We're going with that physical? Maybe? Oh, 𝐸𝐬𝐨𝐫 created a barrier. And this is maybe where Flum learned her good barrier spells. Oh, okay. Ooh. There might be. Not greater in this sense, but... Ah, yes. Persistence. Holy... She's just an unstoppable force, isn't she? Point blank! And interestingly enough, she's just using normal defense and attack magic. As she has said to Fan. Oh, how must he feel right now? There always is. That is a fair point. What is he gonna do? I'm afraid. Ooh, is the bluff gonna work? Oh, she puts Richter over Denken. That might be your... she might follow through just to make the bluff real. Yeah. Damn it. She's too nice. I wonder that too, actually. Does he want to meet 𝐸𝐬𝐨 for some reason? Trouble brewing. Okay, and he wants to defend it, I suppose. I mean, he could. She could take Denken with him, with her. I think he trusts. She trusts him enough to. Ooh, okay. She saw something that they didn't. Oh, and the rain is gonna come down, right? And that's the thing. And she's gonna release the barrier and the rain's gonna drop and suddenly Kanna will be super effective. It's just a matter of them holding out. Sometimes you just need to hold out long enough for it to actually happen. Bro is dropping the entire fucking mountain on them. Yeah, so they are on another level. I mean, they didn't say you get disqualified if you do release the barrier or destroy it. Oh. Arrogance. I love the color display and the shattering like glass. Holy shit. The holy emblem, alright. The last great mage. Yeah, I knew she was gonna like this. And she enjoys that. Magic should be free. She turns it around, what Richter said. And maybe he's just gonna give up. Oh, and he's gonna try. Yeah, this is gonna go badly for you. Yeah, technically it is, right? And now she's gonna show her medal. Oof, like paper. Water is a force to be reckoned with. Fucking hell, poor fucking Denken and Laufen sitting there having to gurgle water. Alright. And head pats for everyone. I love how like the leg he held onto him to not let him get swept away. That's very nice. Alright, he ain't willing to give up. I like that. I like Denken. I wonder if all of them are gonna make it. Alright, yeah. I mean, there's still other parties that we don't know. No-name parties. Alright. Oh, they recognize it's her. Well, don't tell everything, Fen. She just moves at the end of the game. Yeah, he's right. Okay, now we have the confirmation. But maybe that was 𝐏𝐢𝐏's intention. I mean, maybe that is exactly why he didn't open up. Ooh, that is rough. Yeah, I mean, that is an easy target, I'd say. Too much in the mental low. Maybe he's gonna pretend that they too have lost one of their... Yeah. And he's gonna sit down or something. Oh no, he's gonna fucking... Alright. Old man's gonna throw some fists, alright? Fair enough, Denken. Maybe that will give them the feeling that, damn, we were beaten already and then we got kind of knocked out instead of us just getting stolen from them, which would be more unfair, I suppose. Holy shit, what are you doing? Also, this party is trouble, I can already see that. Alright, let's see who survived. That little exchange, I love that. Like, them just looking at each other. Oh, Stark, my poor dude. Are you happy though? Or do you just miss them? Bartender. Bartender knows what's up. And we have the lyrics, I love it. Alright, the hair that grows longer, which is cool. Meaning and everything. Having caught up to you. I won't ask to see you. Wow, okay. Let me remember the task just for today. Solace, right? Acceptance and solace. Anytime, anywhere. Wherever you are. I love this song. I don't know, it's... I love the first part already, but the second part is even better. Just because it's thematically just tying into it. And I am not gonna look what's going to happen later on. We are at the end of the reaction portion, and we are gonna jump right into the discussion. If you have been watching the PEP, go back to YouTube, check out my discussion. We're gonna go through the episode. We're gonna talk about various things that I've talked about in the episode already, right? Also, just to let you know, these little parts where I actually stop and talk about something and then continue the episode, I've been doing them somewhat inconsistently, right? In 20, I've been doing them a lot, and in this episode, I think I've done it just one time or two times. This is just how it's gonna be, I think, when I actually find the opportunity to, where I have to feel like I have to say something or want to say something that, and don't want to talk over the episode too much, then I'm gonna do that. But it's gonna be every once in a while, definitely. Let me know what you think about that. But with that, back to YouTube, and let's just talk about what we have here. Alright, let us take a look at what we have here. We are starting with rain. I think this is really cool. That's foreshadowing if I've ever seen foreshadowing, right? Because this is amazing. We start with the rain, and we are going into a memory of Flamme and Frieren, and also 𝐸𝐴. I do wonder who's remembering here. It's very interesting because we see Flamme and Frieren fade away at the end of the memory, which kind of suggests to me that 𝐸𝐴 is thinking back on that. Maybe because she has seen Frieren's name on the sheet, or maybe because she has kind of felt or in some other way seen that Frieren is present. Also, holy shit, Flamme. Flamme is very, very gorgeous. Yeah, and we do have that little meeting. Frieren and Flamme meeting eyes for the first time. I do wonder if something happened between them or whatever, but we're gonna see that. We're gonna see that. And it's been ages, right? It's been thousands of years. We go through Sunny by Yoroshka. Interestingly enough, we've never seen that this frame here. I wonder if we will see that eventually, because it looks very much to me like it is that frame where in the Barkland is in the bag which Richter created, and Frieren and Denken are fighting here. So interesting that we've never seen that one, but yeah, we still have a chance to see something similar. I do wonder if, and do let me know if you know that, the spell names are loosely based on German names or not, because they don't seem to be, but they seem to kind of contain German elements, right? Land is a German element, and Bark is very close to Berg, so I'm not sure about that. It's still since with the Stille on her head, it's so insane. Like, holy shit. They're making a real topic out of it, and she seems to be very much in control of her mana, but that doesn't surprise me. We have that little eye to eye, right? Literally eye to eye between Frieren and Denken, who thinks that the joy of discovering or of learning new spells is actually searching for it and chasing after them. And we do have the same answer that Frieren gave back then, although I do wonder if that was Frieren's opinion of it or if it was Flam's opinion, because I can see it for both of them. And she's like, I do feel like it's kind of weird because she kind of tempts you, right? It feels like she is that person who's like, I have all the knowledge in the world, pick one and I'm gonna grant it to you, gracious me, right? I do wonder why that is, why she does that, out of self-satisfaction, or is it just, yeah, right, to set somebody up and be like, here, I grant you this, and once you're, right, will enable you to become stronger in the long run, and set your sights on new things like battling other mages, and once you're strong enough, you're gonna clash against me or something. But I don't know if that's the case. And we do have some references to that later on, and I do still feel like their smile is somewhat nefarious, although it could just be arrogance, self-confidence. I do love the focus pull, right? We have to focus on Frieren. Flam is in the background. We see her out of focus. And she's like, I have no... yeah, she has knowledge from nearly every grimoire. She's a knowledge seeker, right? She's an elf. She collected all of that shit. I do wonder where she was during the demon times, because they said she came back a little bit more than 50 years ago, so that must have been a little bit after the demons were eradicated. So I do wonder, where was she all this time? That's still a thing I have in the back of my head. I'm less convinced now that she is kind of involved with the demons, but I'm also convinced that there's something that we don't know yet that's going on here. And Frieren's like, I don't want one. I don't need one. The great strength of magic lies in searching for it. And while she smiles on that one, she says Frieren is no good, which is very interesting. She's like, alright, she's not playing to my tune. I don't like that. Right? And you see that her looking kind of condescending onto Frieren. She lacks a burning ambition. I fundamentally disagree. While Frieren might certainly lack a burning ambition at the very moment, I do think that it can be just as much an ambition to actually enjoy searching for these spells, right? To be the person who is the best in the world of identifying, finding spells that are interesting, collecting all odd pieces of spells and whatnot. I think that is ambition on its own. It might not be an ambition in the traditional sense of I want to reach goal X, and once I reach goal X, but I'm done, right? But there is this thing, we have that in another series of mine just now. What is if you come at towards, or if you reach the end of your ambition, what do you have left? And you have to seek out new ambitions at that point, and those new ambitions, what are they gonna be? And I do feel like 𝐸𝐸 might be a person who had an ambition, or some kind of ambition at some point, like possibly collecting all the grimoires that exist out there, and becoming the forefather of human-ish magic, because Flam is actually we'll talk about that in a second, and she reached that, and at this point she's just looking for fights because she's bored otherwise, right? And then you just in this constant state of limbo where you're like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Guess I'll fight other mages. Right? If they're strong enough, but if they're not strong enough, I'm gonna snooze and feel bored all the time, feel miserable, instead of going out there and just enjoying collecting these spells. I do wonder how she collected the spells. Maybe it was like her pupils bringing it to her, which would also kind of reinforce this thing of I'm always letting other people do things for me, and I do not know how enjoyable it can be to do these things for myself. And yeah, what I just mentioned is also very interesting, that Flam actually was known as I say forefather, but as the creator, as the ancestor of human magic, possibly as the first really great mage in the human race, as a student of 𝐸𝐸. Interestingly enough, though, Richter dubs 𝐸𝐸 the creator, the founder of human magic. And in a sense, that's true, right? If Flam was the first human and she taught Flam, that's also, in a sense, true. But it's interesting how time kind of shapes how we perceive these things, right? That probably until 𝐸𝐬𝐏 appeared again, a lot of the people that are not studied mages and kind of put their head into history books have always considered 𝐸𝐿 to be this shining example of like the founder of human magic. But 𝐸𝐬𝐏 was kind of almost forgotten by everybody who's not right deep into the matter. And that happens a lot in science as well. We can see that. A lot of people are talking about Sigmund Freud, but rarely anybody is talking about Anna Freud, who was Sigmund's daughter and did a lot for psychology as well. And a lot of other fields, there's the same thing going on. And it's not just women, it's just like there's this one person that kind of has been passed down for generations due to maybe also selective storytelling, right? Selective book writing, selective history, scriptures, because the authors of these works, they kind of had a fancy for this certain person, even though like had a fancy for person A, even though person B might have been also very involved or maybe even more involved in this very thing, but you dub this person the creator, the founder, the main figure in the development of this certain science or this certain branch, and you leave out the other person who had maybe just as much of an impact on the overall landscape. And all of these students, right, the students that are learning the subject might actually get to know this other person as well as a very prominent figure, but everybody who just knows about the field in general and just has like a mid-level intermediate kind of level of knowledge, they will know person A, but they won't know person B, who might have been just as responsible or even more responsible for some of these things. And it's very interesting how the more time passes, right, the longer of a period we have between the person actually living and doing their thing and us learning about these things that happened in the past, the more information can get warped and changed by the individuals that continue to shape it, right, that pass it down to the next generation, be that by scripture and book and whatnot, or be that by word of mouth, right, through oral history. Both of these are gonna kind of change depending on the person, right, the subjective view of the person who is actually taking in that information and continuing to pass it on down the line. She lacks a burning ambition, but 𝐸𝐿 believes that she will bring about the age of peace, which I'll have to read more into that, because 𝐸𝐿 has a lot of belief and also a lot of prophecies, right? She had that prophecy of like, Frieren, one day you're gonna regret what you're doing, and you're gonna maybe want to seek out 𝐸𝐬𝐏, the afterlife. And she also said this, right? I'm sure she's gonna defeat the Demon King, so I do wonder if she had some kind of prophetic powers or spells or maybe even just some knowledge that we are not privy to, or if this was just her steadfast belief, her actual belief. She had faith in Frieren and she built her up to be that kind of person, and she believed she could be that kind of person. This is why she built her up that way. Maybe that's just because this is her grand plan, right? This was her grand plan all along, and while she has a burning ambition of vengeance that we know about that in terms of 𝐸𝐿, and she definitely, at least indirectly, fulfilled that wish, right, to defeat the Demon King, to break up the demons, and destroy them to a degree, not completely, but not eradicate them, but destroy them to a degree by building up Frieren as this person who is going to do it eventually. But I do wonder, I do wonder why she does say that with such confidence. People who believe in something are dangerous. They're scary, right? If you believe in something, it can move mountains if you believe strongly enough and actually act upon that belief. And yeah, I mean, our general, right, our subjective thoughts, our perception, our beliefs, they shape who we are, and they shape people around us as well, right, through that impact, through that interaction. and she's like, we can't do it. Can you imagine? And we have that theme throughout the entire episode. If you can't imagine something to happen, you can't make it happen. Which I think is a very interesting theme. It might not be applicable or work in 100% of real life cases, but I think it rings very true to a lot of situations. If you cannot imagine you doing something, it is very hard to actually do it. If you can't imagine how something works, right? Even if your imagination is a rough draft, an abstraction, whatever, then you can't really explain it properly. You can't really develop a model for it, which makes sense. If you haven't seen anything of that sort before, it's very hard to take a new experience, a new object, a new subject, something that is very novel and new to you, and actually apply it to the cognitive kind of blueprints, right? The schemes that you have in your mind. Imagination is definitely the fuel for a lot of human and only humans here that are actually inventing shit on this planet. But yeah, imagination is definitely the fuel for a lot of human strive and imagination, and great works of fiction, great works of technology, great works of science. And she says to 𝐸𝐬, you can't imagine a world where there's little to no conflict, right? And I think this is why you can't actually bring about this world of peace, the Demon King and whatnot. And we're kind of like, I do wonder if this is more of a metaphorical thing, right? In terms of like, because you can't imagine it, it's not gonna happen, even if you might act upon it if you had the chance to do so, right? If this is a thing about, hey, this is motivation and it subconsciously goes into your actions and everything you do, and as such, you will probably never be in the position to actually defeat the Demon Lord and usher in an age of peace. Or if this is more along the lines of her actually questioning 𝐸𝐬's morality, right? Her actual her capacity to decide to defeat the Demon King for good in the moment she would actually have the opportunity to do so. So there is the question if this is actually just applicable to her morality, or if it is applicable just to her motivation in general, in terms of like, you're never gonna make it there because your motivations, your passions, the things that you strive to do, they are not going in a direction where you will ever be in the position to actually defeat the Demon King. You will never be motivated enough to actually be at that point with a hero's party, stand in front of them and actually act upon that, right? Do that, make that duel happen. Although I do wonder why she never actually confronted the Demon King, considering that she supposedly was one of the greatest mages out there. Although we don't know how she would rank up in comparison to her brethren, right? To other elves that were around. Or if at that point elves were already low-key almost eradicated. But yeah, we do have a little duel between Kanne, Lawine, and Richter, and Richter is significantly more powerful than they are. He has more mana capacity, and he concentrates his spell on physical attacks because he does know what modern mages these days seem to have adopted, which also explains why we do have so many modern mages that we see 𝐸𝐬, 𝐸𝐬, Wirbel, Scharf. They all seem to be using spells that manipulate matter, but use the matter itself, the physical attack power of the matter itself, to attack other mages, which seems to be the trend because while 𝐸𝐴𝐿 did develop the defensive magic to a capacity that the defensive magic itself is highly resistant to mana itself, we do seem to have this situation where physical attacks, like the defense that we have against physical attacks in this age, didn't develop all that much because there was no need to do so. Normal-ass monsters and warriors could be easily defended by simple defensive magic, and the more, what did he say here? Like, the more complex it would become, it would become too complex, which would have a fatal effect on activation time, right? You wouldn't have the necessary reaction time, and at this point, the strategy is attack with things that manipulate matter and force physical attacks upon fellow mages, who they can partially defend against, but not completely, because the defensive magic that is common in this age is very simple. Now, obviously, what that will result in is that across the ages, like in 10, 20, 30 years, right, in a couple of decades, there will be more intricate defensive magic against physical attacks that will be developed, because mage on mage fighting will require a lot more skill on the physical defense side, if you are somebody who knows that your opponent might be better on the physical and magical attack side, right? There will be individuals that will be like, okay, I can't beat you in a head-on-head, just aggressive attack fight, but I can beat you if I actually develop a spell that is better defending against physical attacks and whatnot. I just need to find the right compromise between complexity and activation time, just enough for me to actually react fast enough and beat you anyway. And then we have completely different, like completely other mages like Mr. Land, who demonstrated very effectively last time that there is other ways to go about this. Attack and defense aren't everything. Sometimes you just have to make your opponent spend their mana and make them believe that they actually are winning, when in reality you're just observing and looking for a weak point, and once that weak point is there, you're just gonna strike. And that is the stealth route, right? That is the illusion route. Illusion mages are super powerful in many magical and RPG systems for a reason, because illusions are incredibly powerful in making us, as the one who is subject to these illusions, show our cards very early and underestimate our opponents or overestimate them. And if you find the right situation and you have the right amount of imagination, you can put that illusion magic into a lot of things. But yeah, I find it very interesting that we do have this theme of normal ass defensive magic is not that great at defending against physical attacks, and yet we do have Fan, who has been told by Frieren, and Frieren, who is also following through with that, to actually just completely use normal ass defensive magic without any specialties to that, and just perfectly or nearly perfectly defend against any of the modern mages in question and just beat them easily. So I do wonder if that is due to Frieren and Fan's mana capacity. I do wonder if that's due to them just training it for so long that it has become stronger, although there's some scientific theory within it, right? Because obviously we are talking about complexity here, so I do wonder if that the reason why they're so good at that is also that Frieren and Fan have their own kind of slightly more complex forms of this defensive magic. It's still normalized defensive magic, but they do it very well in a very specific manner, and they can defend very well as a result of that. I do also I think it's possible. Fan has an incredible fast reaction time as a mage, so there could be that element that Frieren took into account and was like, you know what, you're very fast in reacting and all that, so you can be a little bit more complex without having too much of that downside of not having the necessary cast reaction time. But yeah, it's very intricate, very interesting. I do wonder if we find out more about that, or if that is relegated to the manga and we never get to know that. I know Frieren does a lot of interesting exposition, and they do a very good job at putting this in without boring the audience, without just dumping it on them. They just sprinkle it in here and there, and we get to know little bits and pieces. So I do wonder if that's going to come up in the next episode or at some time later on in the series. I know we do have a couple of episodes left, so 7 episodes is a lot, right? For some series, 7 episodes is almost an entire season. But yeah, they're low-key almost defeated here. They're at a standstill, and Richter actually just wants to put them to sleep, but we're actually jumping over to an amazing duel, like a beautiful duel. So we show it from the from the long shot perspective, which I absolutely like, because we do see the scope of it. We do see how impressive it is even from far away. Holy shit, look at this. It's like a piercing attack, right? Going out from one specific point, and it's reaching in like claws coming to get you, and then it whines. It's beautiful on a visual level. It's so beautiful on a visual level. It kind of reminds me of like all the cool shit that you see in your typical like RTS fighting games, where you do have masses of armies who are firing rockets or lasers or whatnot. And you do see that if you've ever played stuff like, I don't know, Stellaris. It's not an RTS. Stellaris is a turn-based one, but still, no, Stellaris actually has RTS element. Yeah, sorry, Stellaris is RTS. RTS 4X. If that, it doesn't tell anybody who is not into gaming what that is. 4X means it is one of those grand strategy games that has all of the interesting, has a lot of interesting elements that are going into such strategy games. I think they all start with X, but not necessarily. Like, technically, these words don't start with X, but the sound you make when you say these words in the beginning of the word is X. So you have explore, right? Exploration of the area around you, be that in a game on planet Earth where you're just exploring the territory and the map, or be that in space where you have space exploration and whatnot. You have explore, you have expand, right? You're expanding your sphere of influence, your empire, your whatever. Explore, expand, exploit, I think is exploit, right? You're exploiting resources from the various places where you go to, that you find, and exterminate, right? You're exterminating enemies, and that's where 4X comes from, because it's the 4 axes that are major gameplay loops in that. But enough on that tangent. I think it's beautiful animation. We show these intricate magic summoning circles. I did always like that about Magic series, that they have these cool circles that are showing up, be that as just a visual representation, or be that in some series even that you have to draw them on the, right? If you remember something like Full Metal Alchemist, or stuff where there's actual magic going on, because obviously Full Metal is mostly alchemy in the sense of more the supernatural sense, but alchemy still. But I do love these like intricate designs. They're very beautiful. They're very cool to look at. And she's firing her. I do love that little swoosh of the staff, right? We do have that here. She goes up here. We have swoosh. You don't even see the details, but because it's happening so fast, it's a very cool motion that is indicating to our eyes that the staff is being moved very swiftly in that direction. And we do have the fuzziness here, right? Very fuzzy, still indicating the movement, and then we start up again. And she just fucking fires a whole barrage of things, and he's like, holy fucking shit. And this is where the animation really goes wild. He's flying, and they're curving and arching to go back to the heat-seeking missiles going after him. And he's displaying an amazing show of like flying and dodging, and it's like a dogfight in the air, and it's really cool how these beams of energy are slithering after him like snakes, and he chooses the right moment to block them. And we do have the sparks flying and the negative energy and whatnot, and he's retaliating. He's going all the way in, and she's just defending. She just has a sphere around you. She doesn't even need to pick a specific spot. She just has a sphere around her. She's like, whatever. And he's like, I gotta end this fast, because otherwise I'm gonna be fucked. And we do have the whirlwind going up, and he again, we do have physical here, right? We have physical. It's not the traditional sense of physical like earth or even water, which is kind of a fluid. We do have physical in the sense of a very powerful natural force, almost druidic kind of spells. And we add to to the whirlwind, to the tornado, we do add the fire, which is a classic magic spell, right? You're having, right? I do remember, I think D&D has something similar where it's like a pillar of fire that's going on. It's not necessarily wind and fire magic combined, but it's a really cool thing there. And yeah, fire and wind obviously help each other. Now, to be fair, like, if the wind is strong enough, the fire's gonna be snuffed out. But we're gonna ignore that here because this is a really cool and amazing visual combination of two raw and powerful elements. And we do once again have that with the physical thing that 𝐏𝐢𝐏 just explained to us. And he's like, what is this guy doing? But they're like, oh, the barrier will hold, it's fine. But Sansa actually realized that Frieren has been starting to analyze the barrier. And she's been doing that while she's like scheming and fighting and whatnot. So I'm like, what the fuck, Frieren? But yeah, sphere, just an entire sphere. She's like, I ain't dealing with that. I don't give a fuck. She's on another level. And he has to see that, right? I do wonder what that is. It looks kind of like just light beams, and it's really cool, right? Because we do have that element of light and darkness magic, maybe, right? Just magic of light rays instead of normal attacks. Like, I can imagine this as UV rays, and the actual magic, right? Basic magic spells would just be raw mana being shot at people, like plasma or some shit. And he's like, a counterattack? What? Where? How? When did she have the time? But yeah, it's film. And she goes, it's so goofy, but it's so cool, right? We do have that super detailed shot of him, and then we change into this image that we still don't know what it is, because I think in this case we're actually Denkin's point of view, and Denkin's point of view is he's just turning his head and he's refocusing on where Frieren is, and we zoom out and we have that standstill of her just going in as if she was gonna stab him with her staff, and she activates a spell at point blank range, giving him the shotgun treatment, and that's the end for him, right into his eye. I love this thing where you go into somebody's eye to indicate like it basically hit him, and you don't exactly know what happens, but it's really cool. And we do have that impact shot right here, this frame, and bam, and another one, which is really cool. These impact shots, they have a lot of effect if you actually see these things, in motion, right? Boom. You don't even recognize that it is the shape it is, but it's basically just like seeing lightning. The lightning comes down and it overloads your entire visual field for a second, and that's it. He done so. Love the dust coming up and all of that. That is really cool as well. But yeah, amazing animation. Frieren being, I love the close shots on the eyes, being very cruel. Supposedly, she's bluffing, obviously, and Denkin told Laufen that she's bluffing, but Laufen couldn't stand Denkin being hurt, because Frieren would have most likely definitely hurt Denkin. I'm pretty sure about that. I do agree with her on that. And here we do have that duel that's almost over. And now Frieren is gonna pull the block. She's gonna be that person. She's absolutely unbeatable at this point. I do love this after effect and the sparkling, and we do have this shining light, right? This breaking reality kind of sense that we feel here. Everything else is getting dark around it, and the light of her spell shines so bright, and it's cool, right? They are all just they're all just flabbergasted at that, and it goes up, and I do love how it's kind of just rainbow. And Sansa actually gonna call it. She's like, it's gonna break, and he didn't believe it, right? He did not believe it. But yeah, it's almost like rainbow, not rainbow colored, but rainbow like stripes. That show like it almost feels like it's showing the phases, right? if we see all matter, including this barrier, kind of as just waves, if we go into particle physics or quantum physics or whatever you want to call it, and then the phase just gets disturbed and the entire glass house shatters, and it's an amazing image. It's a beautiful image. I do remember having a similar image on Madoka Magica, the movie, like the third movie. You know which one I'm talking about, right? And this is always an amazing image of just like reality being shattered almost. And before that, he was not interested in who this elf mage is, but now he's like, what the fuck? And senses like 1,000 years and this is how you say hello. Yeah, but she is excited. This is why I can't quit being a mage, because, yeah, the world is turned upside down. And she finds that very interesting, very curious. And Frieren says something, she felt bad for Kanne. Magic should be free and not restricted. It's very interesting. As a philosophy, you can go into a lot of that, right? Magic. But I have to kind of let that sit in for a while. Magic should be free. I do wonder if that is a dig at 𝐏𝐢𝐏 and her tendency to hoard all that magic to herself, almost like a dragon hoarding gold and just giving it out piece by piece as a privilege. Is that really gonna make the people, right, humanity and elves in general, right, society, is it gonna make them stronger? I don't think so. Magic is a world of visual imagination, and we drop that. Can you imagine somebody winning against the water mage with that rain? I can't, and I don't think Richter can. Which he tried to for a second. He was like, shit, I gotta do something. I thought he would give up. For a second I thought he would just give up, but he isn't. Which I commend him for it, but it was over the moment she shattered the thing. And it breaks like paper or like glass. It just gets crumbled like a plastic bottle. This is why I don't like water. Bam! These frames, these are amazing. Look at that. You do have that, right? The water starts to just fill his frame. And it's getting washed out more and more, and then it's just getting past him, and just emphasizes this strength of water. And I wanted to talk about that for a second, because in a way it's symbolic, right? He used earth magic, a lot of earth magic, a lot of rock and stone. And what is the one thing that is gonna demolish stone? It's not gonna do it instantly, but it's gonna do it slowly and steadily over years, and it's gonna wash all the stones away if it can. And that's water, right? We see that everywhere in the world, right? The great Colorado River going through all the US. It's not going through all the US. You know what I mean, right? Boulder is a town in Colorado. The Colorado River, right? The Great Canyon. All done by a river over thousands of years. But this is like symbolic, right? The water washing away the stone in a way. Kanne washing away Richter here. And the headpads, very nice that we continue this theme. 𝐏𝐢𝐏 kind of feels like, first of all, I do think it's her honest opinion that it's boring that Fan just uses normal magic. But Frieren, but I think it's her prodding too, right? She's like, okay, we're basically past the first test. The second, maybe, and definitely the third test, because we have kind of had the hint that there might be even a third test, is going to be us going up against one another. So I need to find something out, because these people, right, that I'm with, they're actually pretty dangerous, and they could be a problem for me. So she's like prodding, and she's like, well, you're kind of pretty boring with just your normal ass spells. And Frien's like, well, I can use other spells, but yeah, my master doesn't want me to use them in combat, right? She's trained me that way. And it could be a weakness, right? You could see that as a weakness. Could be like, okay, if there's ever gonna be a mage that's actually gonna come up that's better than Fan, and that actually is using clever tricks, she's not used to using any magic that is not normal ass magic. So what is she gonna do, right? She'll have to adapt in this case, and she'll have to adapt on the fly, which Fan is very good at, but at the same time, this is kind of putting her in a possibly compromising position down the line if Frieren did not foresee a possible enemy for Fan. But yeah, we're prodding here, and she's like, well, I can see through people's clothes. I love that moment where she's like, all right, Spella let you see through clothes. And he was like, no, stay away from me. I love that. Yeah, I mean, I feel you, 𝐸𝐽. You don't need to be a second Stark here. Poor fucking Stark. The things he had to endure. But anyway, like, Lund actually points out that 𝐸𝐽 might be a little bit nefarious with her trying to find that out, and since we're competing against one another, and confirms that there's more tests coming, beyond the second even, maybe. And she's like, I think you should have opened up a little bit more Four Eyes. And she's right, but if he thought about that, right, if he was like second and third test might be coming, that might be the very reason why he didn't open up. Because he saw 𝐸𝐽 and Fan possibly being very strong opponents for him in the future. And there we have the mental effects, right, of being done. First of all, losing a comrade. That could have been a comrade that you've known before the exam, right? Some of these people went to the academy with one another, so this is a great emotional loss, right? And you're shocked. Not only did you lose the test immediately the moment it happened, it's also one of your friends or somebody you've gotten to know just now who what was maybe a nice person dying in front of your eyes. That's traumatic. And I can see that there are definitely boy here on the left is more in shock, more in a grief, I feel, and boy on the right here is more in shock. Left and right from their perspective. From our perspective, it's boy on the right is in grief and boy on the left is in shock. And I do definitely see that happening. And it can be very, very bad on your mental, but at the same time, right, they're kind of instinctively trying to hold on to this 𝐸𝐽 being like, and right, rationally they should know that they can't win because they lost their party member, but they're in shock, right? They're not processing things properly, and as such they're holding on to that thing that they have been striving for all this time, that they did the thing for, which I think it's very cruel that actually you can't win anymore once one of your comrade dies. But at the same time, this is a team exercise, right? It's meant for you to prove that, yes, I can defend my comrades as well, because as a first class mate, you're allowed to the north, right? What if you take somebody younger with you? You need to show that you're capable of actually defending them and being responsible for them. But yeah, very funny that 𝐸𝐽 is like, let's square it out, right? We'll be dishing out some fists here. Let's fucking go. But I think this is actually him being very kind to those people. Because in that not only does he kind of activate them, right? Get their adrenaline going, get them active again and working, but also he provides them with an excuse as to why they lose their 𝐸𝐽, right? It's not just I got it snapped from me when I was in shock, or it's like, okay, I just gave it to someone because my spirit got broken, because that's gonna make you feel even worse about yourself in the end. It's kind of keeping their dignity up a little bit and kind of just getting them out of that rut. And even though he strikes him down, probably it's gonna be, in the end, it's I think it's a better way to go about it than just to come in and be like, okay, you can't do anything with it anyway, hand it over. And that, for me, that adds a lot to 𝐸𝐽's character, because 𝐸𝐽 doesn't seem to be a bad guy. Yes, he seems to be a schemer. Yes, he has probably done a lot of like nefarious or cruel things across time, where he might have gotten into the situation where he had to kill people that for the sake of his country or for the sake of keeping up his power or whatever. But he doesn't do it unnecessarily. We saw that in the last episode. He doesn't want to kill kids. and he definitely doesn't think that the first class mage thing is worth killing children, or at least innocent young people over. And we do see it here again, that he is actually taking, to a degree at least, I believe that, taking care of them emotionally by saying, okay, I'll give them a little bit of a fight instead of just going and being like, all right. At the same time, it's clever, right? He understands people, and he knows that they might not give the 𝐸𝐿 to him if he just approached them and was like, you can't use it anyway, give it to us. But yeah. And we ended here. This party is gonna be trouble. They wouldn't be shown here otherwise. I love the rays, by the way, the sunlight rays, like the setting sun. But yeah, they fucked up some people. And they sure as hell probably made it past. We know that 6 parties made it. We know Fan's party, Denken's party, and Frieren's party. We don't know the other 3 parties, which is very interesting. It's gonna be... Oh, no, we know one more party. That is 𝐕𝐕𝐿's party. 𝐸𝐬𝐿 and 𝐸𝐴. We don't know 2 other parties, so it's very interesting. Gonna be very interesting to meeting those other 2 parties and seeing what they're all about. Or maybe they're just gonna be side antagonists, and we're gonna extrapolate further on the parties we've already gotten to know. That would also be a thing to do, possibly. And I do love that little exchange of let me just disable the subtitles. Right, she's giving a slight nod, a slight smile here, and I do love that, because you don't need words between the 2 of them. Frieren just kind of leaning over. You don't see her mouth, but I think she's smiling slightly. You can see it from their eyes, and Frien's just then looking away and smiling to herself. And poor fucking 𝐸𝐷 just being alone. I think he's missing them. Bartender's actually picking up on that. Yeah, that's the episode, and that's a wrap. Episode 21 of Frieren was exciting to say the least. It was very cool, very interesting, and I had a lot of fun with it. If you had as much fun as me with it, please leave me a like, subscribe to the channel for more Frieren, for more other series as well. I have 𝐏𝐢𝐬𝐨𝐬𝐭 going on, and Made in Abyss. Go and check that out if you are curious about those. There might also be something on the Patreon. There might or might not be on Frieren. There definitely is on Made in Abyss. At the moment, it's 2 weeks early access on that. Check out the Discord, check out the Patreon, and I'll see you on the next video.